Hello, family. Welcome back to another episode of The Unscripted with NK. NK for Nancy Care. Right here, we're holding authentic conversations about our experiences, our feelings, our thoughts without the fear of being judged. So, today, I'll be telling you a story about my grandmother fighting my mother. For those of us who've been here, probably you've watched my first two clips, and I'm talking about my grandmother and how really he hated my father, who is the son, to the point of celebrating his life, his death rather. Now, my mother comes into the picture. That is, my father becomes of age to get married or to marry, and he brings in his first girl. Of course, my grandmother does not approve her. And as much as the girl wanted to stay, as much as my father wanted to do life with this girl, my grandmother could not allow it. And so the girl decides to leave. Yeah, she left and never to look back. When I listen to that, I'm like, I think if I were that girl, I would have done the same thing, because really, who would tolerate my grandmother? So I think the girl was like, this is not how human beings should be treated or treating fellow human beings. So yes, she left. My father went back to the dating field, and this time round, he picked my mother, brought him to the mother, who again, of course, does not approve it. But then I think my father this time round decided, whether you like it, mom, or not, I think I've become of age to make my own decisions as an adult, and so I'm going to stick by this girl. This is the girl I want to do life with. So yeah, today they are still together. So my mother says that being in the hands of my mother or my grandmother was one terrible experience she'll never forget. And trying to prove a point of being the daughter-in-law, you know the narrative of what the in-laws are looking forward from a daughter-in-law, and so the daughter-in-laws are struggling to prove that point. So she tells you that she became basically the maid of the house, and of course she would do everything that my father was doing, save for going to the fields at night. So she'll say she'd go to the river for even more than 10 times, but by the time she's doing the last trip, there wouldn't be water in the homestead. Where has it gone? Somebody has taken it and done whatever they did with it. You look around, really, you cannot see anything substantial that the waters have done or the water has been used for. Or should fill the containers, and by the time she's doing her last container, my grandmother would go take the containers in her presence and pour the water. And she'll be like, I don't know whether you've poisoned the waters. You want me dead? And my mother is like, if you knew that I have that motive, why did you allow me to go to do all this, to put in all this effort? She'll say that as the daughter-in-law that she was, and she wanted to prove, she would look around in the field and realize there was a place that needed to be tended to. So she'll take a djembe, go there, work in the fields for whatever time or days it will take her, but immediately she would be done. My grandmother would go outsource some casual laborer to come to do what my mother would have done or could have done at that point. And mommy is like, okay, really? Who does that? So, to the point of being denied food, yes, even though she was the cook. Probably you'll be asking yourself, how would you not taste or eat what you've cooked. Because if anything, she should have eaten from the kitchen or taste as she cooks. But then she'll tell you that every time she'll be cooking, it will be in the vicinity of my grandmother. She'll always be there in the kitchen when my mother is cooking. One of the reasons of her reasons being she feared my mother would poison her family. So yeah, once she had cooked, he would take my grandmother would take the food, go serve the family, and leave out my mother. At this point, when this is happening, my father, of course, was not there. He was out there trying to fend for his small family. So the only times my mother says she should happen to eat was when my father was around. And since my father knew the mother, the little that was left for him, he will always make sure that he has eaten it with the sweetheart. So my father one day decides, no, I cannot let someone's daughter go through the hands of my mother, because really he knew the mother, and of course he knew what the sweetheart was going through. And he decided, no, you know what, mom, enough is enough. Allow us to go begin our small family. Where I come from, uh, when you marry as a son, the first point you operate from is from your mother's homestead, until when they, as a parents, would allow you to now move out with their blessings, of course. But at this point, my father forced his way out. And my mother tells you that that was her happiest moments in marriage, because she happened to breathe air full of freedom, fresh air, away from the toxicity of the mother. And she says, she got to cook her food, taste it, enjoy it, eat to her satisfaction, unlike when she was on the other side. But then she says, even after moving out, my grandmother did not stop at that. If she's not insulting her from her place, she's, poisoning the son about my mother. She's telling everyone who cares to listen on how my mother is lazy, my mother is a prostitute, adulterers, and all that. Now, it came to a point that my mother could not take it in. And, the next time, my father was the on-off person, in, out. So this moment is in, the other moment he has gone out to fend for his family. So the next time he came, my mother was like, no, man, you're not leaving us here. At least we need to breathe. We are going with you where you always go. And that's how we left home for 2 decades, being away from my grandmother. But again, guess what happened? Immediately we had left, a message reached my mother or my parents telling them that immediately they left, my grandmother went and brought down our house. And where I come from, I'm told traditionally that is an indicator or a message that I do not want you people here. Never return. Yeah, and that is my grandmother in a nutshell. So in our next episode, I'll now be telling you how life was on the other side, away from home. Until that time, it's goodbye.